it says something interesting. Luke 16:15. It says that which is highly esteemed in the sight of men can be detestable in the sight of God, which means that our priorities may not be God's priorities. And sometimes we hold such things in high priority, and God says, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, what you say is 10, it's like 1 in heaven. Well, that thing over there is a 1. No, that's like a 10 in heaven. And you have to find out what God's priorities and value scale is, and then try to match it. And if you get that, you will have won one of the most important victories in life, because it scales your perspective according to God's. What you're doing is tweaking your eyeballs with God's eyeballs. Over your whole lifetime, you will constantly be doing that. You're going to tweak your eyes to His eyes, your heart to His heart, your thoughts to His thoughts, not the other way around. See, often we want to keep our perspective, our eyes, our heart, and our thoughts, and try to correct God to me.
Right.
And then what happens is that's called idolatry. Whenever I correct God's thoughts to me, it's idolatry. Good poetry. Whenever I correct God's eyes to me, it's idolatry. Because then I'm making a God in my image. But if I keep Him as God is God, and you're not going to change, because the Bible says Jesus Christ is the same in Hebrews 13:8, yesterday, today, and
forever.
And I do not change, saith the Lord. So I've got to change my perspective to His, my heart to His, my thoughts to His. Then you're becoming more and more like Him, and He's changing us from glory to glory into His image. Everybody got that? Mm-hmm. Okay, if you catch that, you will have won one of the greatest victories in your life. Constantly doing that every day, every day, every day. Lord, what are you saying? What are you thinking? How are you seeing this? So Luke 16:15 says, be careful, because some of the things that are like number 1 in man's eyes, 0 in God's eyes. So we have to change our perspective. In school, you're going to have different activities. Before I get there, let me give you a quote by John Wesley, and it is, do you know who John Wesley was? Great evangelist, yeah, and from England. But John Wesley said something, it's my favorite quote. It's so favorite with me that in one of my offices in Hawaii, I have emblazoned on the wall. And it's John Wesley's quote. I now value all things only by the price it will have in heaven. I now value all things only by the price it will have. Where? In heaven. And that's what we want to do. So here at the college, sometimes we say, well, this is important, this is important, this is important. But in God's eyes, I think these times here to Him are really, really important. Because what I'm saying to you right now is what you'll need to hear about God's eyes versus ours, how God thinks versus ours, and we have to tweak this. We cannot turn the knobs on God's side. We have to turn it on our side. So those kinds of things to God are like really important in heaven's eyes. In man's eyes, it's a take it or leave it. In God's eyes, it's like, if you just hit these, you'd probably do really well in life. The rest of the stuff you can learn. But deep depth in God, you have to go after. You got to go after. So things like, I think things, and wherever God is going to be speaking directly. I mean, He can speak in our classes, and He does. He does. If you listen in class. You got to listen to the voice of God. Class, just because it's class, doesn't mean inherently it's going to do us good. Because you can be like in a halfway coma throughout your classes, and it won't do you any good. On the other hand, believe it or not, when you're in the midst of worship and in the presence of God being called upon, and people say, Lord, we want to give audience to you, you can be in the midst of that. And of course, you can go into a coma too, but it's really hard to do that when you're surrounded by the praises of God's people. So to me, I think chapel is really important. Your devotions is very important. Times that you pray. Maybe some of you have gone up to the cross and you've had prayer. think those are like number one in God's eyes. What are some of the other things that you've done this